For schools, bad for city employees. Tonight, Portsmouth City Council got a look at the 2019 budget proposals for the first time.
Mayor says students have reason to be optimistic. The city's looking to spend about $60 million on public schools, but not everyone is getting the money they need. 13 News Now reporter Robert Boyd explains in tonight's top story.
Well, I'm outside IC Norcom High School, just about a mile down the road from Portsmouth City Hall, where earlier tonight, City Council was discussing the upcoming budget, and the major theme is improving schools, both when it comes to education as well as safety. Portsmouth's proposed budget for 2019, $241 million, a 1% increase from last year. And about $60 million of it will go back into their public school system.
Well, it's one of our major things we want to work on is education.
Some of the budget highlights include the design of a brand new middle school, new school buses, as well as 9 new school security officers, which means every school in Portsmouth will have one.
Doing a school-by-school analysis, what we need to do to make the harden the schools, I guess you might say.
Redeveloping the waterfront was also an area of focus, known as the Crawford Gateway Revitalization Project, which includes moving City Hall, the Public Safety Building, and the jail.
We need to get the private sector on the waterfront. This is a place where people want to live and not have government offices.
But Councilman Mark Whitaker told the city manager that the budget is still lacking when it comes to compensating the city's own employees. 130 of them are making $30,000 a year or less.
And some of those employees have worked for the city in excess of 10 to 15 years and still below $30,000.
While retired firefighter Garland Alexander says the city is also forgetting about the retired men and women in uniform. He says their pensions just aren't cutting it.
We have widows that are making like $10,000 a year. They're having to choose between buying medicine or buying food.
Now, tonight was just a council workshop, but there will be a public hearing coming up on May 8th where residents can weigh in their opinion on the upcoming budget before City Council makes an official vote. In Portsmouth, Robert Boyd, 13 News Now.
New information surrounding the case of a Portsmouth police officer shot 5 times. Tonight, the teen accused of pulling the trigger says he didn't do it. 16-year-old Patterson will face a dozen charges, one of which is attempted capital murder. Today, on the first day of his trial, he pleaded not guilty. Patterson is accused of shooting Officer Angelia Boccolini back in November. He was 15 years old at the time, but because of the severity of the alleged crimes, Patterson will be tried as an adult. It was a sight in Chesapeake today. Heavy smoke and flames ripped through a store, causing the roof to collapse. 13 News Now photographer Brandon Graves brings us some of the wild images from the scene.
It's a pretty quiet neighborhood. When I looked outside, I saw a lot of smoke and flames coming from the store.
I was just coming to the corner store and then I saw it on fire, then I got blocked in. And I thought it might have just been like a little small fire until I saw the actual store on fire. I was like, wow.
There was an employee who found the fire, noticed the fire in the office, which is in the back of the store. She called 911.
The guy who owns the store, owns the business, had just got it going really good.
Well, I live over here in the neighborhood, and I come to this corner store all the time. And I was coming today just to grab a few items, and I can't believe it because Fred is a really nice guy.
We know him as Fred.
He just opened up the store a couple years ago. I'm just sorry this happened to Fred. I really am. And to the neighborhood. I'm just in awe. I just can't believe it. I just can't believe it.
It took firefighters nearly 2.5 hours to get this under control. Still no word on what started the blaze.
225 Arizona National Guardsmen are heading to the Mexico border to support President Trump's fight against illegal immigration. They will join hundreds of Texas National Guard troops who mobilized over the weekend. In all, the government could deploy up to 4,000 Guardsmen for what the Department of Homeland Security is calling a growing migrant crisis. DHS says the president is responding to attempted border crossings, which they say have increased nearly 200% in March. Meanwhile, Governor Northam has vetoed a bill aimed at preventing so-called sanctuary cities in the state. Northam says the law is unneeded and it's a burden on law enforcement and sends a chilling message. Republicans have virtually no chance of getting the needed 2/3 majority to override the governor's veto.
Continuing coverage of the chemical attack in Syria that is gripping the world tonight. President Trump calling the attack heinous and atrocious. Regarding a U.S. response, he says nothing is off the table. Janae Norman joins us with the latest on the crisis.
The monster who was responsible for these attacks has no conscience. Not even to be shocked by pictures of dead children.
The U.S. requesting an independent inquiry at an emergency UN Security Council meeting following these chilling images of young children, even infants, after a suspected chemical weapons attack. At least 40 people killed in the rebel-held district of Doma, near the Syrian capital of Damascus. Less than a week before, President Trump said he wanted to pull U.S. troops out of Syria.
We cannot allow atrocities like that.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's regime denies using chemical weapons, claiming the videos are fabricated. Syrian activists took video of Russian specialists allegedly visiting the site of the attack. After their survey, Russia's foreign minister said there were no traces of chlorine or any other chemical substance used against civilians.
Russia could stop this senseless slaughter if it wanted, but it stands with the Assad regime and supports without any hesitation.
Does Putin bear responsibility for this?
He may, yeah, he may.
President Trump warning anyone involved will pay a big price.
We're making a decision as to what we do with respect to the horrible attack that was made near Damascus, and it will be met, and it will be met forcefully.
And a military response isn't off the table. Janae Norman, ABC News, Washington.
Virginia senators also demand action. Mark Warner says the administration needs to develop a coherent strategy to hold the Syrian government accountable. Tim Kaine says the Trump administration owes the American public a strategy for Syria, and I plan to hold their feet to the fire until we see one.
Newport News man is making a difference thousands of miles away. Since becoming a citizen and getting his master's degree, he set up a nonprofit to help kids in his home country, South Sudan. 13 News Now reporter Chanu Hurd joins us with his story.
Well, David, his name is Angelo Maker, and he's been chipping away at this since 2010. This year, he hit a milestone. He graduated his first class of students from a high school he helped build through his nonprofit. Not only does he help them graduate, he also helps them develop skills and find jobs. It's his way of giving back to kids he can relate to. A burning desire and some passion.
I've been working on this project since 2010.
Can go a long way.
I could not believe an idea that one person just shared with a few people could result into something that's tangible that be seen.
Angelo Maker embodies both, and when he dreamt of helping educate kids in his home country, South Sudan, he wasn't going to stop until it happened.
See, everyone is just running happy in the community.
How happy were you to see that?
I couldn't believe just an idea became true.
Those are 60 students in South Sudan who recently graduated from a high school Angelo helped build through his nonprofit, Abukloy. He founded the organization in Newport News.
It was really an amazing thing in my life I ever seen when I was there on the ground. It was really wonderful, and was at the same time was so emotional.
This is what Angelo has always wanted to do with the help of his wife Stephanie, help educate kids in his home country that has a long war-ridden history. It's a story Angelo can relate to, being one of the lost boys of Sudan.
God compromised me to be alive. I could have been dead like other lost boys. I could have been dead by the time that my mom was executed before me. It could have been me. If God kept me alive, whatever I do, I need always to get back.
To them, that's all they know. They know violence is the key. No, you can use your head instead of using guns. So I'm really happy that we did that.
His hope is to continue keeping this dream alive so kids in South Sudan can know their passions too don't have to be just dreams.
I need to share.
Our Angelo says he's headed back to South Sudan in November for another graduation ceremony. If you'd like to learn more about his nonprofit or donate to his school, you can find that information on my Facebook page. Chinu Hurd, 13 News Now.